I always think it's never too early to be prepared. So today I am preparing for the upcoming season by getting a big head start on making some tags for Christmas gifts. If you like paint and multimedia and glitter and all kinds of those fun things, then stay tuned because I think you'll like this. For this project, I'm using some watercolor paper by Strathmore. And I'll put a link below where you can find some of this, but you can find it at art stores, at craft stores, sometimes even at dollar stores. This is 140-pound weight, and that refers to the thickness of the paper and the heaviness of it. This one has this gray piece in the front, which I'm not going to be using, and you can tell how stiff the paper is. So this is what you want. If you don't have watercolor paper in your creative circle, I recommend that you might want to get some because there's lots of things you can do with it. So I'm just taking it off there. Now generally when you're doing watercolor, you stretch the paper first. You know that if you put water on paper, it causes it to swell up, and if you're putting like a big wash of water, it makes it buckle in funny ways. But today I'm not going to be doing that because I'm not going to be putting big washes on the paper. And for paint, this is my small watercolor palette. You don't need anything this fancy. I'm a watercolor artist. I've been doing watercolors for decades. And so I have a lot of the stuff, but you can just get a child's paint box that works just fine. If you like working with crayons, you can get watercolor pencils or watercolor crayons, and those work too, or even markers like these. And then you can quote unquote paint with them. However, today I'm keeping this fairly simple, and I'm starting with this brush, which is a number 12, and you'll find if you look at paint brushes in some place like Michael's or an art store that they all have a number on them, and that refers to the size, the circumference of the brush. So this one is a 10, and you can see that it's a little bit smaller. This one is an 8, and the smaller the number, the smaller the brush. So there's what a 2 looks like. I'm going to start with this 12. And I'm going to use just a couple of colors because I'm going for traditional Christmas colors. So I'm using this red called alizarin crimson. Now you can use any red you want. I have, as you can see, a bunch of reds here. And I'm just going to squirt some water in it so that it kind of softens it up. And then I always keep a piece of watercolor paper, like a scrap, next to what I'm working on. I haven't done watercolors much lately because I've been doing other things, and this is just a scrap of regular paper. And the reason I do this is just so I can test my color. So that's the kind of red I'm looking for. And I'm going to just sort of puddle around in it here so that I get lots of color in my brush. And when I kind of run out, I'll put more water in and get it going again. So for this exercise, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to put some paper underneath my workspace here, just because I want to be able to just paint right off the paper and I don't want to have to clean up the mess afterwards. So this makes it easy to do that. And I want to just make some parallel lines like this on the diagonal, and really it doesn't matter to me how close they are together or how far apart. They can be however you want them to be. So I just reloaded my brush. This is a super simple project. And like I said, all you need is some watercolor paper. I wouldn't recommend that you use anything like cardstock or printer paper or anything like that because the paper just won't hold up to it. And you'll get, like you can see here, this has had watercolor on it, and the paper is so absorbent it just goes, and then you just get blurry lines. It's amazing what there is to know about paper and what kind of paper does what. And because I'm actually using a lot of water here to dilute the color, it runs out of of wet paint pretty quickly. So this is just my first step. And I'm kind of making it up as I go along. I had an idea, but I think, you know, sometimes I change my ideas halfway and it works out better. And sometimes, you know, I go, I should have gone with plan A. See right there, my evenness went off a little bit, but that's okay. I don't mind that. Because in the end, we'll be cutting these apart to make our tags, and none of that will show. Okay, that's good enough for that. And with this paper, it really takes very little time to dry. All right, I am going to switch now to a smaller brush, and I'm going to use this green, which is not quite a Christmas green. Well, maybe I'll use that one. Let me see. Yeah, this is a nice green. Let me just test it. Oh, that's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Okay, what I'm going to do with this one is I could have used the same brush, but I decided to just go with a smaller one. And I'm going to just fill in between these marks here. Now, watercolors, you probably are aware, professional watercolors come in tubes usually, or little pans. You can take the tubes and squirt them into a pan like this, or a palette like this. And then you can let them dry and they will harden, but they become revitalized if you add water. There, now I'm just going to let this dry. So before I do anything else with it, it has to get completely dry. Again, I'm going to take a bunch of the paint out of my brush. For some reason, green likes to stay in brushes. All I want to do now is add some glitter. So I'm going to do that in, this is just glitter glue. This one is dry now, and that only took a few minutes. What I want to do now is I'm going to cut out some of my shapes for the tags, and I'm using this little bowl. You can make them in squares or rectangles or however you want. And what I need here is just an ordinary pencil, and I'm going to just go around here. For purposes of demonstration, I am just going to cut these out. And then we can do some other good things with them. Now, you can cut around or just inside the pencil line. If you cut it so that the pencil line shows, you can just erase it. That's easy peasy. And another thing you can do if you have the tools is use a paper punch. And some of them are like 3 inches in diameter, and they work perfectly well. Okay, there's one. Now I'm going to do the glitter like I did with this piece. But first I'm going to punch the hole. And this is where you would put the tag on. So I could just decide where I want this. And you're going to write on the back, so it can be wherever. So there's that. And then I will take my matte gel again. And I guess I could close this up. I'm kind of done with the watercolor for the moment. And let's just paint this. Okay, now you can see here, this is watercolor. So what happens with watercolor sometimes is anything wet comes in contact with it, it will reactivate it. And it made a little bit of a streak there. I don't actually mind the look of it, but if it's something you don't like, then this is probably not the method you want to use. Okay, let's throw that in the water. Get my little rag here. And the color I want is this white. So it's kind of like frost. And I'm going to put lots on it. And again, I just need to wait for this to dry. I can tap off the excess, but you can see it's pretty well stuck. Here is my finished piece. The glitter is all dry. It actually took overnight, so I put it on a little bit thickly in some places, and you can see here it's thinner, but that's just fine because you can spend as much or as little time as you want on it. Now I'm going to make a couple of these and just draw the circles from the back. That way, if the pencil shows, it doesn't matter very much. And then we can see how they turn out. So there's one, and actually I want to do one over on this corner because I like the thicker glitter. All right. So there's that one and this one, and all I need now is punch. So this one will hang like this with the stripes this way, and this one I'm going to put the hole in here so that it hangs a little bit at an angle. So it will hang like this. Well, it's almost straight up and down. Anyway, this is the finished product. Now all you have to do is put some ribbon through it. You can decorate with some little bells like this. I've got a little piece of gold cord here. These are not cloth scissors, so they're not quite sharp enough. Fold it and put it through here like this. Draw it through like that, and there's my tag. So I can write on the back and then just tape it on, or however you want to attach a tag. And then you can do all kinds of more decoration on this if you want. If you had a little piece of tinsel, if you want to hang a bell on it, there's just endless ideas that you can use. So that's what the project looks like, and it's like super easy. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.